white on white was not a good idea for today. But oh well, here's where we are. It is what it is. Hi HFC kids, I hope you had a happy Easter. Welcome back. We're going back to our epistle series. I guess we continued to stay in the epistles for the book of Hebrews, but this one is more explicitly talking about and reading verses from the different epistles that were written in the New Testament. This week and next week actually are our last weeks doing our Sunday morning, like Sunday school videos. So if you've been watching along the way, I'm sorry. But we'll take the month of May off probably, and then starting in June we're going to do a different mini-series, side series that doesn't follow along with what we're doing in Sunday school anymore, because I know most people are back coming to Sunday school again, and these are a lot of work to put together. So I want it to be something that whether you're staying home on Sunday morning or if you are in person and then go home and watch it during the week, that it's something special and something exciting that you can watch or listen along to learn something new. And I think we're going to be focusing on the fruits of the Spirit, which we talked about in our letter to the Galatians. But before we move on to something else, we have to finish the epistles that are written in the New Testament. And if you remember, epistles is just a fancy word for letter. And so all of our cards for the books of the Bible that we're learning about have these little letter writing symbol on them, if you can see that there. This letter writing symbol is to show that this was a letter to or from the title of the book. So this one is 1 Peter, and it is a general epistle. And when we talk about the general epistles, it means that they are not all clumped together in Paul's letters, but they are written by whoever the name of the book is. So this is 1 Peter, which means it was written by Peter. A couple weeks ago we talked about James, which was a letter written by James. Whereas the Pauline epistles, it's switched. So the letter to the Corinthians is written by Paul to the Corinthians. But we are in the general epistles of 1st and 2nd Peter, which are letters written by Peter to Christians in Asia Minor, which is now Turkey. It's a piece of land which you can see here on the map, that this is where there were a lot of Christians there, but they were still different, and they were surrounded by Romans and Roman soldiers and people who didn't believe in Jesus. These people were they were different. They stuck out, kind of like we talked about with Titus and with the Thessalonians. They were one green dot surrounded by red dots. They were completely different. When they were trying to do the right thing and follow God, they stuck out against the rest of the people. And Peter wanted to write them a special note encouraging them, and then another special note reminding them of the truths that God has told us. Before we talk too much about what Peter wrote, I want to introduce you to who Peter was. Here's a picture of Peter. He was one of Jesus's disciples, which means he was one of Jesus's best friends. He went on ministry trips with Jesus. He was there the night Jesus was betrayed. He saw Jesus when he was about to die and when he had risen again. He knew Jesus really, really well. Peter asked a lot of questions. He's really popular in the Gospels because he was the one that would shout things out and would ask questions and would say things that may have not necessarily been true, but Jesus always corrected him on it. He was a very outgoing, outspoken disciple of Jesus. And Jesus saw traits in Peter that he knew were going to be very important. So he named him Peter, which his name wasn't originally Peter. His name was originally Simon. And he renamed him to being Peter, which means rock, because a rock is like a foundation. And Jesus said that Peter was going to be the rock, the foundation, the steadiness, the knowledge, the base of what the church was going to look like after Jesus had gone back into heaven. So after Jesus left and went into heaven, Peter got to work, and he was sharing the truth of Jesus and helping Christians all across the world who were starting to understand who Jesus was and why it was so important that Jesus came and died and rose again. And so one of the things that he made as part of his mission as the rock of the church was to write these 2 letters to the Christians who were being persecuted in Asia Minor. These people felt homeless. The word that they use in the Bible is exiles, which means you're supposed to be in one place, but you're stuck somewhere else. You're trapped somewhere else, and it's not your home. And he talked about them as being exiles in the world and how Christians are here and they're different, and this isn't where we're supposed to be. This isn't where we want to be. God is just using us here for the amount of time until we die and join him in heaven. So while we're on earth, God is giving us true joy and true life and true love until it's time for us to go be with him. So as they felt like exiles, as they felt different and like they stuck out, Peter encourages them that this world is not their home, and that the tribulations and trials and persecutions that they go through in the world are not going to be eternal, because eternally they're going to have a new life forever with Jesus in heaven. Over and over again in the epistles, both in the Gospels and the epistles, actually, it talks about how we're supposed to be like Jesus. And being like Jesus is great. It means that we have the power of God in us. It means that we can choose to do the right things. It means we have an eternal living hope. But following Jesus also means there are going to be bad days along the way. Jesus had good days and Jesus had bad days. So we have to expect to have good days and bad days as well. He does say in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 13, to rejoice insofar as you share in Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. Meaning there will be hard times, and just like Jesus went through hard times, we are supposed to rejoice in those hard times, but also rejoice in the times that we are excited and we realize that our hope is in God. And God is with us during those good days and bad days. That's one of the main messages in 1 Peter that we're going to highlight today, is that God is watching over us. He's with us. He's beside us. He will not leave us alone, like we talked about in the Thessalonians, but he's also watching over us in heaven, in that place that we get to be someday. And he says in chapter 3, verse 17, it says, "It is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil." There's going to be hard times no matter what, but at least these hard times, we're still on the winning team. We still have this hope, rather than the people who go through hard times but live in a sinful, broken world with no hope. We have been given new life and new hope. In chapter 1, verse 3, it says, "Blessed be God our Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead." And so while we have this life on earth, in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5, it gives us a list, kind of like Peter's version of the fruit of the Spirit, that if we're going to be living this life following God, there's some things that we need to do and some things that we need to avoid. It says, "For this very reason, make every effort," meaning work really hard, "to supplement your faith with virtue," good things. That virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love. You're supposed to be focusing on loving one another and for doing good works and good things and following after the goodness that he has for us. And we're growing in our knowledge and our self-control along the way. That's what we're supposed to be developing while we're waiting for the time that we get to be with God. He tells these people that if Christ can endure hard things, then we can endure hard things. Christ died and went through all of that hard work. We can't make it for nothing. We have to appreciate the work that he's done for us, live our lives in a changed way, and keep following him. He gave everything for us, so we should give everything for him. And after all that suffering, all of that hard time, chapter 5, verse 10 says, "You have suffered for a little while, and the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory to heaven with Christ, he will himself restore, confirm, and strengthen and establish you." Meaning there is a great reward from God, help from God as we go through these hard times. But during these hard times, we must hold tightly to Jesus and for what Jesus has done for us. In John chapter 16, he even says, "In this world, there will be troubles. You'll have hard times. You'll have persecution. But," Jesus adds, he says, "but I have overcome the world." Meaning, he is more powerful and he has more goodness than this world has weakness and hurt and pain and evil. We have so much stronger of a good than the strength of the evil in this world. Jesus has overcome all of that with his death and resurrection. He is alive, which gives us hope and a power that we're not going to be able to find anywhere else. And Peter is saying that even though these people are going through hard times, even though they feel like this world is not their home, he says, yes, you do have a greater home in store, but we have to be able to patiently suffer and keep showing God's love to the people around us, to have that self-control, to grow in knowledge, and to share this life-giving hope to other people while we're here on this earth. These things were not written by Peter to scare us. He did not give us those things so that we can say, our world is terrible. But he gave us those things so that we can remember on our hard days and on our good days that Jesus is better, that Jesus is more powerful, and no matter what we go through, he is there with us, and he's watching over us, waiting for us to join him. That's our message for 1st and 2nd Peter, that God is watching over us. And he can protect us because he has overcome the world. I hope that's encouraging to you no matter what you go through. And I hope that you can remember it so that when you're having hard days for one reason or another, you know that you can lean on Jesus. It even says in 1st and 2nd Peter, it says to give your burdens, give your worries to God because he cares about you. He wants to help you. So let him help you. Don't block him out. Remember to take joy in the offering that he's given us. So I hope you have a good week with that information, with that new knowledge, with that new growth. I hope you continue to grow in what the Bible has been teaching us these past few weeks. And I will see you next week as we dive into our last series of epistles, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. See if my arms disappear in front of this background. Bye, HFC kids. How badly do my arms disappear?
They're not bad.
They're not?
No.
I fully expected anytime I moved my arms, it would just be floating hands.
I'm sure
I should get a morph suit for when we get our green screen.